The moment my mother opened the front door and said, "I don't think you belong at this dinner anymore," my entire world stopped. I stood there holding the pie I had baked for my family, while everyone inside the house avoided looking at me. My own mother had invited everyone except me, and I didn't understand why. But what she didn't know was that my grandfather had left behind a secret letter before he passed away. A letter that would reveal the truth about our family and change the way everyone looked at me forever. My name is Emily Carter, and for most of my life, I believed that family meant one thing no matter how difficult things became. The people who shared your blood would always stand beside you. I grew up in a small town called Willow Creek, Ohio, where everyone knew everyone, and family gatherings were something we looked forward to. Every holiday, every birthday, and every Sunday dinner at my grandfather's house felt like a tradition that could never be broken. My grandfather, Thomas Carter, was the one person in my family who always made me feel seen. He wasn't the loudest person in the room, but he had a way of making you feel like your words mattered. He used to tell me, "Emily, people can take away many things from you, but they can never take away the truth you carry in your heart." I never understood how important those words would become until the night my own mother told me I wasn't welcome at a family dinner. Before I share what happened that night and how one hidden letter changed everything, make sure you subscribe to Hidden Truth Stories for more emotional family stories filled with secrets, unexpected twists, and powerful life lessons. Now, let me take you back to the beginning, because the truth behind that dinner started many years before anyone sat at that table. When I look back now, I realize the signs were there long before that dinner. My family always appeared perfect from the outside. The Carter family name was respected in Willow Creek. My father, Daniel, had worked for the same construction company for almost 30 years, and my mother, Linda, was known in our community as someone who always organized family events and made sure everyone looked happy. But behind closed doors, things were never as perfect as they seemed. I was the oldest of 3 children. My younger brother, Michael, was the one everyone called the golden child. He was charming, confident, and always knew how to make people laugh. My younger sister, Rachel, was the one my mother treated like her best friend. They went shopping together, shared secrets, and seemed to understand each other without saying a word. And then there was me. I was the quiet one, the one who listened more than I spoke, the one who noticed small things that other people ignored. When I was younger, I used to wonder why I always felt like I had to work twice as hard to receive half the attention. But there was one person who never made me question my place in the family. My grandfather, Thomas Carter. Grandpa lived about 15 minutes away from our house in an old white farmhouse surrounded by maple trees. His home wasn't fancy, but every corner carried a memory. The wooden clock above the fireplace, the old photographs on the hallway walls, and the small library where he spent hours reading every evening. Whenever my family was too busy or too distracted, I would visit Grandpa. He would always have a chair waiting for me near the kitchen window and a cup of hot chocolate ready, even when I told him I was old enough to make my own. "Emily," he would say with a smile, "some traditions are not about the drink. They're about knowing someone was thinking about you." Those moments meant everything to me. Grandpa was the first person who encouraged my dreams. When I told him I wanted to become a writer, he didn't laugh or tell me it was unrealistic like some people did. Instead, he gave me an old leather notebook. "This belonged to me when I was young," he said. "Write your thoughts down. One day, your words may help someone understand your heart." I still have that notebook today. But as I got older, my relationship with the rest of my family became more complicated. After Grandpa started getting older, I noticed something changing. My mother began visiting him more often, but it wasn't the warm, loving relationship I expected. She asked more questions about his finances. She wanted to know what he planned to do with the house. She wanted to know if he had updated his will. At first, I thought she was just being responsible. After all, he was getting older and someone needed to help him. But Grandpa noticed things too. One evening, while we were sitting outside watching the sunset, he became unusually quiet. "Emily," he said, "sometimes people become more interested in what you own than who you are." I looked at him and asked, "Are you talking about Mom?" He didn't answer directly. He just smiled sadly and said, "A good heart doesn't always recognize a selfish one quickly." Those words stayed with me, because deep down, I knew Grandpa was trying to tell me something. A few months later, Grandpa's health began to decline. My mother suddenly became very involved in his care. She started handling his appointments, organizing his paperwork, and speaking for him during family conversations. Whenever I tried to visit him alone, there was always a reason why it wasn't a good time. "He needs rest. He's tired today. Maybe come another day." It felt strange. The man who had always made time for me was suddenly becoming someone I could barely reach. One afternoon, I finally went to his house without telling anyone. I found him sitting in his favorite chair, looking out the window. When he saw me, his face lit up. "Emily," he said softly, "I was hoping you would come." I sat beside him and held his hand. "Grandpa, is everything okay?" He looked toward the hallway where his old wooden desk sat. "There are things in this house that people will look for after I'm gone," he whispered, "but the most important things won't be found by searching." I didn't understand what he meant. I asked him to explain, but he only smiled. "Promise me something," he said. "What?" "Never let anyone convince you that you don't belong." Those were some of the last words my grandfather ever said to me. A few weeks later, he passed away peacefully in his sleep. And after his funeral, something changed in my family. The warmth disappeared. The Sunday dinners became less frequent. The conversations became shorter. And slowly, I started feeling like I was no longer part of my own family. My mother never openly said she wanted me gone, but she found small ways to remind me that I wasn't her favorite. She criticized my choices. She compared me to my siblings. She acted like everything I did was a disappointment. But I never expected that one day she would look me in the eyes and tell me I wasn't welcome at a family dinner. Especially a dinner that was supposed to honor my grandfather's memory. What I didn't know at the time was that Grandpa had left behind something hidden. Something my mother never wanted anyone to find. A letter that would reveal why she had been treating me differently for years and why she was so afraid of me being there that night. The night of the family dinner started like any other important family event. The night of the family dinner started like any other important family event. At least, that's what I thought. It had been 6 months since Grandpa Thomas passed away, and my mother announced that the entire family would gather at her house for a special dinner. She said it was a chance for everyone to come together again. A fresh start, she called it. When I heard those words, I felt hopeful. For months, I had felt like there was an invisible wall between me and my family. I missed the days when we could sit around the table, laugh about old memories, and talk about Grandpa. So I decided I would make an effort. I spent the entire afternoon preparing a homemade apple pie using the recipe Grandpa taught me when I was a teenager. He always said, "The secret ingredient isn't sugar, Emily. It's patience. Good things take time." As I placed the pie in the car, I remember smiling. For the first time in months, I believed maybe things could finally change. Maybe my mother had realized how much family mattered. Maybe we could heal. But when I arrived at my mother's house, I immediately felt something was wrong. There were cars parked everywhere. My brother Michael's truck was in the driveway. My sister Rachel's SUV was parked near the front gate. Even my aunt and uncle were there. Everyone had been invited. Everyone except me. At least that was how it felt when my mother opened the door. She looked surprised to see me, not happy, not excited, surprised. "Emily," she said quietly. I smiled and held up the pie. "Hi, Mom, I brought Grandpa's apple pie recipe. I thought everyone would enjoy it." For a moment, she just stared at the pie. Then she looked behind me as if checking whether someone else was with me. "Why are you here?" I thought I had misunderstood her. "What do you mean?" She stepped outside and closed the door halfway behind her. "I mean, why did you come?" My heart sank. Mom, you invited everyone for a family dinner. She looked uncomfortable. Emily, I think you should leave. The words didn't make sense. I actually laughed softly because I thought she was joking. Leave? Mom, I drove almost an hour to get here. She lowered her voice. This dinner is not the right place for this. For what? I asked. She didn't answer. And that hurt more than anything. Because I realized she wasn't angry. She was hiding something. Did I do something wrong? I asked. She looked away. You always make things difficult, Emily. That sentence hurt. Because I had spent my whole life trying not to be difficult. I was the daughter who stayed quiet. The daughter who helped. The daughter who never wanted to cause problems. But standing there on her doorstep, holding the pie Grandpa taught me to make, I suddenly felt like a stranger. Before I could respond, the front door opened. My sister Rachel stepped outside. Mom, is everything okay? Then she saw me. Her expression changed. Not shocked, not confused, almost guilty. That was when I knew. They had talked about me before I arrived. Rachel looked at me and said softly, Emily, maybe tonight isn't the best night. I looked at her. My own family is telling me I shouldn't come inside. Nobody answered. Then my brother Michael appeared behind her. Maybe you should just go, he said. I stared at him. The same brother I had helped through college. The same brother I defended when everyone criticized him. He couldn't even look me in the eyes. I felt tears building, but I refused to let them fall. Not there, not in front of them. I placed the pie on the small table near the door. I brought this because Grandpa loved making this with me, I said. My mother looked at the pie and suddenly her expression changed. For a second, I saw fear. Real fear. Like she remembered something. Then she quickly covered it. Emily, please don't make a scene. That sentence broke something inside me, because I wasn't making a scene. I was standing outside my own family's house, being told I didn't belong. I turned around and started walking toward my car. But before I reached the driveway, my Aunt Susan called my name. Emily, wait. I stopped. She walked toward me slowly. Unlike everyone else, she looked uncomfortable. I don't think you understand what's happening, she whispered. I looked at her. What do you mean? She glanced back at the house. Your grandfather knew this day might happen. My heart started beating faster. What are you talking about? She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. My name was written on the front. My hands started shaking. Where did you get this? She swallowed. Your grandfather gave it to me before he passed away. I looked at the envelope. Then I looked back at the house. Inside, my mother was watching us through the window. And the moment she saw the letter in my hand, her face turned completely pale, because she knew exactly what it was, and she knew what was written inside. I held the envelope tightly and asked my aunt one question. Why didn't you give this to me sooner? She looked at me with tears in her eyes. Because your grandfather told me to wait until the right moment. I looked back at the family dinner I was just told I wasn't welcome at. And suddenly, I realized maybe I wasn't being pushed away because I didn't belong. Maybe I was being pushed away because they were afraid of what I would discover. I sat inside my car for almost 5 minutes, holding that envelope in my hands. I didn't open it immediately. Part of me was scared, not because I was afraid of what the letter would say, but because I was afraid of what it might confirm. For years, I had wondered why I always felt like an outsider in my own family. Why my mother seemed to compare me to my siblings. Why Grandpa always looked worried whenever the subject of family came up. And now, I was holding the answer. A letter written by the one person who always believed in me. I carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded neatly. At the top, in Grandpa's handwriting, were 4 words. For my Emily, always. The moment I saw his handwriting, tears filled my eyes. I could almost hear his voice. I began reading. Dear Emily, if you are reading this, then I know something has happened that made you question whether you belong in this family. I stopped. My hands started shaking. Because Grandpa had known, he knew this moment would come. The letter continued. Emily, I want you to remember one thing. Your value has never depended on how others treat you. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones who fail to see our hearts clearly. I wiped my tears and kept reading. Then came the part I never expected. Before I passed away, I noticed changes in this family. I noticed some people became more interested in my belongings than my memories. I noticed conversations about my house, my savings, and my will became more important than spending time with me. My heart sank. I knew exactly who he was talking about, my mother. But Grandpa's letter wasn't filled with anger. That was the thing about him. Even when someone hurt him, he never became cruel. He simply told the truth. I do not write this letter to create hatred between my family members. I write this because truth should never be hidden to protect someone's comfort. Then I reached the sentence that changed everything. Emily, your mother asked me to change my will. I stopped reading. The entire world seemed quiet. My mother had asked Grandpa to change his will. I continued. She believed that because she was my daughter, she deserved control over everything I owned. She became upset when I refused to remove your name from my plans. My breathing became heavier. My name? What did that mean? The next line explained everything. Emily, years ago, when you were only 16, you were the only person who stayed beside me during my illness. You were the only one who visited without asking what you would receive in return. I remembered those days. I remembered sitting beside Grandpa while he recovered from surgery. I remembered reading books to him because his eyes became tired. I remembered bringing him groceries when nobody else had time. I never did those things expecting anything. I did them because I loved him. The letter continued. That is why I decided to leave you something important, not because you are my favorite, not because others deserve less, but because I wanted to honor the person who showed me unconditional love. I turned the page. Attached behind the letter was a copy of Grandpa's final legal document, a revised will. My hands froze when I saw the details. Grandpa had left the farmhouse to me, not because of money, not because he wanted to punish anyone, but because he wanted the place where we created our memories to stay with someone who understood its meaning. He had also written a personal message. The house is not made of wood and stone. It is made of moments. Give it to the person who will protect those moments. I closed my eyes. Suddenly, everything made sense. My mother didn't want me at the dinner because she was afraid. She wasn't afraid of losing a house. She was afraid that everyone would discover why she had been treating me differently. She was afraid the family would see that Grandpa had trusted me with something she wanted. I walked back toward the house with the letter in my hand. The conversation inside stopped when I entered. Everyone looked at me. My mother stood up immediately. Emily, what are you doing? I placed the letter on the table. I think everyone deserves to know why I was not welcome tonight. Nobody spoke. I looked at my mother. Did Grandpa tell you he left this for me? Her face changed. My brother Michael looked confused. What are you talking about? I opened the letter. Grandpa knew there were things happening in this family that nobody wanted to discuss. My mother quickly interrupted. That letter doesn't mean anything. But her voice wasn't confident anymore. It was afraid, and everyone noticed. My Aunt Susan quietly said, Linda, maybe you should let her finish. For the first time in years, my mother had no response. The truth that had been hidden behind closed doors was finally sitting in the middle of the dinner table, and there was nowhere left to hide. The room stayed silent for what felt like forever. Everyone was looking at the letter sitting on the table. The same table where my mother had planned a family dinner without me. The same table where I was supposed to feel like I didn't belong. But now, the truth was sitting right in front of everyone. My mother slowly reached for the letter. Emily, you don't understand the situation, she said. I looked at her, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to defend myself. Then explain it, Mom. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out, because sometimes silence reveals more than words ever could. My brother Michael picked up the copy of Grandpa's will and started reading. His expression changed with every line. Mom, he said quietly, is this true? My mother looked away. Rachel covered her mouth with her hand. I thought Grandpa just didn't update anything, she whispered. That was when I realized something. My siblings weren't part of the plan. They had been given a different version of the story. My mother had made everyone believe that Grandpa's decisions were unfair and confusing, but she never told them the real reason. She never told them that Grandpa had written about the love and care he received from me. Linda, your father loved you. He wasn't trying to hurt you. My mother finally sat down. The confidence she had when she asked me to leave was gone. I was scared, she whispered. Nobody answered. She looked at me. I thought after Dad was gone, everything would fall apart. I listened quietly, because for years, I had wanted my mother to explain why she pushed me away, but hearing it still hurt. I thought Emily was always the one Dad chose, she continued. I thought she made me look like I failed as a daughter. I shook my head. Mom, Grandpa never wanted you to feel that way. Tears filled her eyes. He trusted you because you loved him without expecting anything, she said. For the first time, she admitted the truth, not just about the letter, not just about the house, but about everything. The jealousy, the resentment, the years of making me feel like I was never enough. I was wrong, she finally said. Those 3 words were something I never thought I would hear. My mother, the person who had made me feel invisible for years, was finally admitting that she had hurt me. But forgiveness is not the same as forgetting. And I knew that. I looked at her and said, Mom, I wanted your love more than anything. I never wanted Grandpa's house. I never wanted to be better than anyone. I just wanted to feel like your daughter. Her face broke. And that was the moment everyone understood what this was really about. It was never about an inheritance. It was never about a house. It was about a daughter who spent years trying to earn love that should have been given freely. A few weeks later, I officially moved into Grandpa's farmhouse. But I didn't keep it locked away as a symbol of what happened. I opened the doors. I cleaned the old kitchen. I repaired the wooden porch. And I placed Grandpa's favorite chair near the window, exactly where he always sat. The house became a place where family could gather again. Slowly, things started changing. Some wounds don't disappear because someone says sorry once. But over time, she began showing me through actions that she wanted to change. One day, she visited the farmhouse and found me writing in the old leather notebook Grandpa gave me. She smiled. He always believed in you, she said. I looked at her. I know. She touched the notebook. I wish I had seen what he saw. That sentence stayed with me. Because sometimes people spend so much time comparing, competing, and protecting their pride that they forget the most important thing: the people they love are not their enemies. Years later, I still keep Grandpa's letter in a safe place. Not because it reminds me of the family conflict, but because it reminds me of his final lesson. Your worth is not decided by who accepts you and who rejects you. The people who truly love you will see your heart, even when others choose not to. And sometimes, the person who feels the most unwanted is the person who has always belonged. Thank you for listening to my story. If this story touched your heart, remember to subscribe to Hidden Truth Stories for more emotional stories about family, secrets, forgiveness, and the moments that change our lives forever.